So I was talking to a friend the other day, and he was telling me about how he had been reading through the stories of Jesus found in the Bible, the Gospels. And what he told me is that when he started reading the Gospels, he thought that maybe at the end he'd be inspired to go to church or do something religious. But when he got to the end, that's not what happened at all. Instead, he was filled with this intense sense of calling, this desire to go on a mission. What he thought to himself was, I gotta go tell somebody about this. I gotta go tell everybody about this.
He'd probably been inspired a great deal by Jesus' final words before he ascended to heaven, which were, "Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them," in other words, immersing them, "in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age." Jesus wanted us to be on a mission that sought to show others this way, a way through Jesus, a way paved by Jesus, and he wanted us to be immersed in this way, immersed in its values, immersed in its history, immersed in Jesus. In fact, the earliest followers of Jesus were called followers of the Hodos, which is the Greek word for the way. But these followers of the way, when they immersed themselves in the way, in Jesus, they found that they were living completely countercultural lives. They found that they were living in an against-the-grain kind of way. They also started to seek each other out. They started to get together, to worship God, to draw upon His strength. They started to remind each other about the words of their King, their God, Jesus. And they started to support each other in prayer. They began to share things with each other and eat together. What they did was they built community with one another. And they didn't do this because that's what the way was. They did this because it was the only way that they were going to be able to accomplish this mission that they'd been given. It was the only way that they were going to be successful in telling people this good news about Jesus' life, death, burial, and resurrection. It was the only way that people would know that they could be saved. And there was this guy named Paul, who was one of these followers of the way. And this guy, he gave everything he had for this mission. And like the others, Paul knew that this mission was not something he could accomplish on his own. He first knew that he needed the strength of his God, and then he knew that he needed others who thought like him. But here's what I love about Paul. Paul took a special interest in a man named Timothy. But not just any man, a young man. Paul saw potential in a young adult. Paul saw a leader. He saw skills. He saw humility, love, and selflessness. And Paul decided that he would train this young adult to be a vital and interconnected part of these people who gathered to follow the way. Paul decided to pass on his responsibilities for this mission to the next generation. I mean, not so that he could have a break, but so that they could do it together. Timothy was young, but Paul said Timothy was not like any other person. Timothy thought not of himself, but instead he thought of others. And Paul entrusted Timothy with the task of training and teaching others. He said Timothy was his true child in the faith, and he told Timothy to confront poor teaching and stand up for the integrity of the gospel. Paul and Timothy had an interdependency on one another under Christ, and together they followed the way. They followed Jesus, and they were on a mission together, a mission to share this great news. And Cafe at Church wants to be the Paul to you, the Timothy. We want to see the young adults in our church begin to become vital and interconnected parts of this community. Cafe at Church wants its 20-somethings to recognize that they're the next leaders, the next followers of the way who will carry on this mission that Jesus has given them. And that's why we started the Hodos. a community of 20-somethings from Cafe at Church who are on a mission to train other 20-somethings in the Niagara region in the way of Jesus. The hope is that this group will expand in maturity and in size to the point that everywhere you look at Cafe at Church, you will see 20-somethings helping the church as a whole to accomplish this mission.